All right, welcome back. Another episode of the Empty Gym podcast. Tonight, joined by Adam Pollard. Colin's got some schoolwork to get done, which is the reason why we've been a little not lackadaisical, but we've had to take a couple weeks off. I had some finals, and then last week, both of us got hit with a little bit of a sickness, a little allergies, a
It's
little.
just load management,
Well,
Load
yeah,
management.
we can't be expected to go every night. We need some time off every once in a while. Rest the vocal cords. Shout out
That's
Morgan
right.
Wallen. Um, so yeah, we took a couple weeks off for some school reasons and for some health reasons, but we're back at it now. A lot of sports happened in the last 2 weeks. Obviously, we're not going to be able to recap all of it, but we'll try to kind of give an update on the situations of everything going on right now. First off, we want to start with something that hits close to home. Last night, we prayed it. We prayed for it. We spoke it into existence. And the Chicago Blackhawks have gotten the number one pick in the 2023 draft. And assuming that we play this the way that it should be played, but a million out of a million times, Connor Bedard is going to be a Chicago Blackhawk.
I'm so excited for it. I was I was watching the NHL Draft Lottery, which, by the way, the first time I've ever watched the NHL Draft Lottery in my entire life.
I
I was
watched it
watching it.
last year because there was nothing else on, and this was the first year that I've actually paid attention to it and not been scrolling through Twitter the whole time I was watching it.
See, it was great. I was on the green of two, and I had my phone propped up against my putter cover while I was putting. And but yeah, man, I was so happy. Franchise changing player, and I just got something to say real quick for all the people who say that it's rigged. If you say it's rigged, you're just a loser. You don't have the number one pick, you're a loser.
Dude, I love that. Everyone was saying it was rigged. It's like off the record, it is so obviously rigged. But
One hundred
it's
percent.
it's so awesome being the one that it's rigged for. I feel like it. I feel
This is
like
I think it's the first time for me.
I think so too. I feel like being an Illinois fan, being a Bears fan, being a Bulls fan. I feel like the Bulls. We should have won that series in 11 or 12, I think, against the Heat. Should have won that.
Oh yeah, uh-huh.
Should have won that series. Rigged. Bears shouldn't have even been in the position of double doink. Rigged.
Cody Parkey, rigged.
Uh, Illinois. I feel like I've gone up to Iowa City, emotionally and physically throughout my whole life, and just seen call after call after call go the wrong way. And now I finally got something rigged for me, and it
It's great.
feels
It is.
amazing.
It's an awesome feeling. It really is. Because like to go back to what you said, this is 100% rigged because the NHL does not want to waste Connor Bedard's amazing generational talent in Anaheim or in Columbus.
Yeah,
They don't want him to go there.
yeah. You want them to go to a place that
Big
cares about
market.
hockey,
Mm-hmm.
big market too, uh, a place that will invest in him and work around him. I learned more about the Chicago Blackhawks minor league system today than I've known my whole life. Apparently, we have the number one talent pool of prospects. We have
I didn't know that.
we have cap space out the wazoo. Uh, I'm just like this is just learned from scrolling through Twitter and one of my friends, Luke Bentley. I believe he was on episode 3 of the Empty Gym podcast
Friend of the
uh,
program.
back when it was still HP Hoops, the old days. Was a friend of the program. He's been chirping or hitting my line, telling me all these things. I feel like we bring Kane back. Now, this might be a little excessive from my end, but
Yeah.
we bring Kane back. Fuck it. Bring Duncan Keith out of retirement. You know?
Marion Hossa, he was in the stands for a couple some playoff game. I can't remember which one it was, but Marion Hossa was in the stands. Let's bring them all back. Put Corey Crawford back between the pipes.
It's just like, I I was watching it last night. I got dinner with some buddies, and we were watching the Cubs Cardinals game. And I pull out, my buddy pulls out his phone because he's a Blues fan, and he's like, "Oh, we might get the number one pick." And I'm like, you're not getting it. I know that for sure. This is about me. Tonight's about me making sure I get the number one pick. And then, so we don't have the sound on, so I didn't hear the thing. Apparently, they announced Columbus's pick like before the commercial break, or like right after the commercial break, before like they flipped the card or whatever. Like, did you see that?
Yeah.
So I didn't hear that until I saw it on Twitter after like an hour after, and I'm just sitting there in this rinky-dink restaurant in Germantown Hills, Illinois, with it on my friend's phone, and they flip the 3 card and it's Columbus, and I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, like
I know.
we might get them. And then they go straight, like they don't do 2, which like it makes sense to not do 2.
Mhm.
Like it makes sense
Yeah.
to go straight to 1, but then they go straight to 1, and I'm just like it would have meant the same thing either way. But for some reason, when he goes the number 1 pick, I'm like, oh wait, no, this is actually the 1 pick, and I'm like, are we gonna get Bedard? Like, in my head, I'm like thinking, you know what? We got this kid who's number 2. Apparently, he like obviously he's no Bedard, but apparently like it was like Bedard, this kid, and then like a big drop off at 3. So I'm like, you know what? We'll get this kid out of, I think he's from Michigan or something like that. I think he goes to school at U of M. And I'm like, you know what? It'll be fine. We'll make do with it. Then the card flips and it's us, and I'm like, we're getting Bedard. Like, I want to buy the jersey right now, but I want to make sure I get the right number, so I'm waiting until we actually pick him. And then the first thought that went in my head was like, imagine if we had the old GM and the old owner, or not old owner, it's still the same owner, but the old GM, the old front office. Imagine if they, like, all I'm thinking is like my worst nightmare that like they think Bedard's gonna be a bust and they don't take him. And then I'm like, oh wait, we got a new front office. We're fine. We're getting Bedard. We're getting the best player to come out of the NHL draft since Connor McDavid. Next, Wayne Gretzky's. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but I'm
Sources have said that.
I am juiced up. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to run through a brick wall, and I'm ready to watch some meaningless hockey this winter.
So when I was watching on the golf course, I was playing with one of my friends he's an avid hockey fan. He knows hockey like we know college basketball. He knows just about everybody on the ice. And so we get Bedard. I'm very happy. I'm like, all right, who do we have Bedard? We got Bedard. Who do we have to build it with Bedard? Who is Bedard going to come into the Blackhawks with? And he said, and I quote, "You guys don't have much, but hey, we have Bedard. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Free agency is going to be electric. I did hear we also have a good amount of cap space. So you see Connor Bedard coming into Chicago, and you're like, well, I would love to play with this young gun."
Also, something that I saw, 2025 free agent Austin Matthews from Toronto. Maybe he wants to play with a young buck. Maybe he wants probably the second best American-born player outside of Patrick Kane. Shout out. Imagine a line. I don't know who's a right winger, who's a left winger, who's a center. I have no idea.
Me either.
Imagine a line of Kane, Bedard, and Austin Matthews.
And I do know that Austin Matthews is a huge listener of this podcast. So Austin, if you're listening, come to Chicago.
Why not?
We got deep dish pizza. Okay.
It's fantastic.
It's a great city in the summer. It's very cold in the winter. But
you're in Toronto. He's used to.
Yeah, you're in Toronto. Come on now. Come to Chicago. Here's the thing. Chicago's on the come up right now. The Bulls, if this trend continues, the Bulls are going to get Wembanyama, number 1 pick. We have Justin Fields. We just got a boatload of picks. DJ Moore is coming to town. Connor Bedard is coming too.
Everyone's coming.
Chicago's on the come up, man.
Chicago is on the come up. greatest summer city in the world. Why not spend your summers in Chicago? Spend your winters in Chicago. The United Center is a sleeping giant right now. Do you see that apparently like 1.9 million in season tickets were sold like from the time that the number one pick got announced to the time to 3 hours later, like in a 3 hour
See
span.
that.
People are getting back in the United Center. Vibes are flowing, energy's flowing, and the Chicago Blackhawks have Connor Bedard. And I will have a blog out about it in a little bit. I know we were talking about this off air at first. We did make the blog. We didn't forget about the blog. We just had to get through some school shit stuff first. We don't say shit on this podcast. I don't know why I was stopping myself. Had to get through some school shit first. Blog is back. Blog is coming with a big one out the gates. Connor Bedard is a Blackhawk. I'm juiced up.
And more Chicago news. Alex Caruso selected to the NBA first team all defensive team today. Congratulations to Alex Caruso, Chicago guy on the come up. Also, another thing, this kind of came out a while ago, but the Bears have purchased that land in Arlington Heights. So a new stadium could be on the way. You can be watching Justin Fields rush for 145 yards a game and throw 3 touchdowns. DJ Moore. It'd be a great time in Chicago. What a time to be alive for Chicago fans.
I mean, we kind of got everything going right now.
We do. Wembanyama's coming to town too.
I'm fully prepared for this to go downhill ASAP.
Me too. I mean, you just gotta accept that at that point. And I blame Cody Parkey for all this.
Yeah, this is all Parkey's fault.
It is.
I mean, you can go back to Bartman too. We'll blame it on him. A lot of blame to throw around. I did see something on Twitter that was like Chicago fans don't deserve this. Like they haven't been through heartbreak, and I'm like, have you seen the Bears franchise history? Like,
yes. I did see that tweet. I think you're talking about it, and it was some guy replied to it, and he said, "Here's two examples," and it was Cody Parkey missed field goal, and then it was Derrick Rose.
Yeah, I was like, okay, so you got, granted, we got 6 championships with Jordan, but especially for people like our age, like,
yes,
we have seen, we've seen a White Sox World Series. If you're a White Sox fan, a Cubs World Series. We have seen 3 Stanley Cups, which was nice. But other than that, everything's been bad.
It has, and I feel like all of that is partly Cody Parkey's fault. It's just the Bears.
Yeah,
but they're on the come up.
The thing about it too is that like you got baseball in the city is split between Sox and Cubs. Not everyone will root for the Bulls, but not everyone's like invested into the Bulls.
Yeah.
Like everyone will root for the Blackhawks, but not everyone's invested in the Blackhawks. The main thing about Chicago being a depressing sports city is the Bears, because everyone in Chicago roots for the Bears, and everyone's Chicago,
in it.
Everyone in Illinois, like that's if we can come behind one thing as a state, because there's a lot of disagreements in this state that people a lot smarter than me could talk about for hours. But the one thing that we all unite on is the Chicago Bears, and the Chicago Bears have been absolute dog shit in our lifetime. Besides one Super Bowl appearance and another NFC Championship appearance. Shout out Jay Cutler for that one. But
Rex Grossman too.
Rex Grossman. Yeah, think about this. We're kind of going all around the board right now. We did say off the air that this was going to be a very free-for-all, free swim type of podcast, and we've kind of made it that so far. But, Rex, I just want to talk about this for 1 second, and then we'll get back to actual stuff that matters right now instead of just going on a Chicago sports history divulgence or whatever. But the fact that Rex Grossman made it to a Super Bowl as a starting quarterback is insane.
I have another thing to add about that. My alarms for my morning shifts at work crack of dawn in the morning. Actually, before the crack of dawn. I'm waking up when it's dark out. My alarms, you know how you can put a little a note on there? My first alarm, whenever I wake up, I put a note there and it says Rex Grossman has the same amount of NFC championships as Aaron Rodgers does, and I wake up to that every single morning.
That's great. Oh,
And that
also,
is not a lie. You call cap on me if you want. I'll show it to you. We'll send a screenshot on the Twitter.
also, I guess another thing that we missed, Aaron Rodgers is finally out of the NFC North and away from the Green Bay Packers.
And the words of Barstool Big Cat, the bad man is gone.
Gone forever, hopefully. I feel like the worst thing ever would be for like, it probably won't happen next year, but in some crazy way, if like the year after or something, if we go on this insane run with Fields and we start to build around him and somehow we make it to the Super Bowl in 24 and then we have to play the Jets and Aaron,
my life would suck.
that would be the most stressful 2 weeks of all time. But
so I have while we're talking about this Aaron Rodgers thing real quick, I have an interesting question for you. Would you rather have so this is all next season. So would you rather have Aaron Rodgers go to the Jets, Aaron Rodgers win a Super Bowl right off the bat, Jets win, or would you rather have Jordan Love and the Packers win the Super Bowl? It's a tough question because there are negatives and there are positives to both.
That is very tough. That should not be as tough as it is. I feel like that shows how much Bears fans hate Aaron Rodgers because it should be easy. Like, I don't give a fuck about Rodgers anymore. He's in the AFC East.
Yeah.
Like, go win a title. Like, we're not in. Let's be realistic. We're not in Super Bowl contention this year. Like, we know that. Like, I say this now. By September, I'll talk myself into it. But
week one,
right now, like, we're not in Super Bowl contention. If Rodgers goes and wins the Super Bowl with the Jets, like, why do I care? But at the same time, I'm like, I want that man to suffer for all the suffering that he's put me through. But I also don't want the Packers to win the Super Bowl. I think I'd slightly lean Rodgers and the Jets winning, but not by much.
So I think I'm with you because there's pros to both of it. And the way I look at it is if the Packers win the Super Bowl, you could be like, okay, Aaron Rodgers holding you back all these years. Like, screw you, Rodgers. You guys wasted all this money, all this time. You guys just wasted him. Like, you guys thought he was so good, all this thing. They go out, Jordan Love wins the Super Bowl. Screw you, Aaron Rodgers. And then this goes back to the Packers organization as a whole. It's like you guys were just holding Aaron Rodgers back the entire time. And you guys traded away Aaron Rodgers. He went to a new team, won it all. And you guys just because that would make me so happy to see all of the Packer fans. I know they would say this would not hurt them because they would be like, I would love to see Aaron Rodgers win a Super Bowl. But they'd be lying because they would hate to see they are hoping the Jets go 0-17 next year. They are hoping they do not win a single game. But if they were to win it all of Packers fans' hearts worldwide would crumble.
And that would be awesome.
It would be great.
All right. Well, let's try to get back on track at least a little bit. But
yeah. While we're here.
But if you take anything away from that first 19 minutes, Blackhawks got Bedard.
That's it.
we started at the Blackhawks getting Bedard and ended at would you rather Aaron Rodgers or the Packers win a Super Bowl? But that's what you get here, and that's what you get with the free swim. Sticking with hockey a little bit, we don't know much about it, but we do know that our Edmonton Oilers are up 2-1 in the series. They beat Vegas. What was it, like 5-1, 6-1, something like that last night?
I can verify, but yes.
Domination. Nothing wrong with that at all. So it was good to see that. And we got another home game, I think, tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see.
They won 5-1.
5-1. Yeah. So, and then Game 4 will be tomorrow night.
Okay, Jack, we got a problem here.
What's that?
We got a major problem. Okay, first of all, the Golden Knights are winning the series 2-1.
They are?
We lost 5-1.
No, we didn't.
That's what it says on ESPN right now.
Oh, wait, we did.
No, this podcast is ruined.
Oh, my God. I must have been, thinking of Saturday night, and I just saw
So that goes back to Jack's first statement about hockey is we don't know a lot about it. Okay?
Apparently we lost 5-1.
That's unfortunate.
I saw 5-1, and I guess I went. I won't lie. Saturday, excuse me. Saturday I indulged a little bit in some great tasting Les Fillings, and I was watching I came back home from Jimmy's. Shout out Jimmy's in West Peoria. Give it a look out if you're in the Peoria area. That's our first non-paid ad. Jimmy's Bar in Peoria. But came home from Jimmy's, sat down on the couch, turned on SportsCenter for a little bit before I went to bed, and I saw that we just dominated Vegas. I think it was 6-1 on Saturday then.
It was 6-1 on Saturday, the 6th. Sorry.
Yep. And then I guess I just looked at the score from last night and just assumed that it was the same game.
Here's the thing, though. This was pre-podcast off air. We and Jack did talk about how the Oilers were up 2-1, and I verified it. I said, "Oh yeah, that's right." So as much blame as you guys want to put on Jack, it's on me as well.
Okay, so we're down 2-1. We got some work to do. Got a home game tomorrow. Hope we can battle back. If we can win this one, we just got to steal one on the road. Then it turns into a best 2 out of 3. We got to steal one on the road. This series just turned so much in my head after thinking that we were up 2-1. But you know what? This is what adversity is all about. This is what coming into a podcast with 0 notes is all about. And this is we got to turn this series around. We got to turn this podcast around. Keep the energy high. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to run as fast away from hockey as possible right now.
I completely agree. But go Oilers.
All right, we got Bedard. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. That's all right. Hockey talking with the boys on the Empty Gym podcast.
We're a basketball podcast.
We are.
We dabble.
So let's get to basketball then.
All right. Speaking of basketball, right now we have Denver and Phoenix tied 2-2 in the series. Denver's up 2 with about a minute left in the second half. So we're obviously we're recording during the middle of this game. We probably will finish before the game's over. So if Devin Booker goes off for 45 tonight, you heard it here first. The Suns probably still lost somehow. But yeah, so that series is all tied up at 2. That's been kind of a wild series too.
It really has.
It's looked at sometimes like the Suns have no one besides Devin Booker and occasionally Kevin Durant when he doesn't start 0 for 8 from the field like he has the last couple games. But that one's been wild. Every series has been wild, but we'll start with this one since I'm actually turning to my right and watching it while trying to talk at the same time. But this one has been pretty wild.
Yeah, Devin Booker is having one of the best playoff performances so far since Michael Jordan. He's basically tearing teams apart left and right. He had I think he's had over 30 plus points in the last couple of games he's played. I think 5 or 6 games he's played. It's just crazy that you would think that Devin Booker would be leading this team when you have Kevin Durant on the roster as well. And it's almost weird to say that Kevin Durant might be a second option. Maybe that's how Durant was in Golden State. That's here nor there, with Steph. But Devin Booker is going absolutely insane. And I read something today too that was kind of interesting to see was are the Suns better without Chris Paul? Because Chris Paul has obviously been out the last couple of games with injuries. And one thing I did hear from somebody that they said, I can't remember who, but they said Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are so good at creating their own shots, creating their own things. They realistically do not need a great passer like Chris Paul to give them the ball. And that takes Chris Paul out of his, defensive liability. He's kind of he's a little older. It takes him off the court, and you allow a younger guy to come onto the court, whether it's Campaign, Josh Okogie. But it is kind of interesting to hear about, and I think it's almost true.
I think that is a very interesting take. But I agree with it because it's like you do think about it. Booker and Durant are two of like the best shot creators, like in one-on-one scenarios in the game, where like Chris Paul is so good at creating shots for other people. He's good at creating his own shot, especially coming off that ball screen. I feel like in the 21 finals against the Bucks, I feel like I saw him get a ball screen from Ayton and snake it into a mid-range pull-up, like 14 to 16-foot jump shot, like a million times. Like he's good at creating his own shot. He's great at distributing and creating for others. But this is a team where, like, kind of like you said, I don't feel like they necessarily need that. With you got Durant and Booker, like I said, two of the great shot creators in the game right now, and them creating shots for themselves as like a butterfly effect of creating shots for others, because then it draws attention. Sometimes it even draws double teams where guys are open. Then like you kick, reverse the ball, kick it, can get an extra pass, get the Nuggets in this case caught in a rotation, end up getting like an open corner three or something. So it's interesting that you feel like if you look at it on paper, you're like, oh, you got Chris Paul, this great shot creator for others, matched up with Booker and Durant, who are two great shot makers, but they're, like you said, they're also great creators of their own shot in one-on-one situations. So I feel like his need is kind of negated a little bit, and he doesn't need to be Chris Paul anymore, but he doesn't know who else to be. So it's like I honestly do feel like, and I mean, because when did he go? He left like mid-game, game 2 or game 3.
Game 2. I think it was game 2.
I think you're right. And then they win game 3 and game 4. They went to commercial. I don't know exactly what the score is right now, but they're in a tight one on the road at Denver in game 5 right now, right around the half. So it's like maybe
Denver's up 3 at half, 49-52 Denver.
Maybe they don't need Chris Paul, which is he's like you said, he's also getting old. Mm-hmm. So like you throw that into it, he's very much a defensive liability. He always kind of has been, but especially now as he's starting to age a little bit more, he's even more becoming a defensive liability, and his role is just not needed on this team as much.
Yeah, I think his role on this team is a lot different than it was on the 2021 finals team.
I feel like they needed him then.
Yes, I completely agree. I feel like he kind of allowed Devin Booker to be a different player, that something that the Bucks were not necessarily prepared for. I mean, granted, the Bucks did end up winning that series, but it was a pretty hard-fought series. You obviously had Giannis go off for 50 points in the last game, but it's weird to say that one of the best point guards, definitely top 5 point guards of all time, that you necessarily do not need him. It's crazy to think about it. But I guess if we're shifting focus towards the Nuggets, Nikola Jokic is having an incredible series. He had 53 points and they lost. Usually you see this guy had 53 points. I think he had triple-double too. I could be wrong. He at least had double-double. There's no question in my mind. But he had 53 points and they lost. It's crazy that someone like him and how he plays the game puts up these incredible numbers night in and night out.
Yeah. And he had 53 and 11 assists, only 4 rebounds.
See, I thought it'd be rebounds, if anything.
Yeah, that's ironically, yeah. But what were you saying?
But like his game is just you wouldn't really think in today's NBA that he'd be able to put up the points that he does. Because today's NBA is not a center big man oriented game. It's catch and shoot, off the dribble, point guards, pick and roll, that kind of thing. And they don't really run the pick and roll too much. It's usually get the ball to Jokic and let him distribute the ball, catch the double team, give it to Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., whoever that would be. But it's almost weird to see how and Ayton, I guess, has not been even a talk in this series. I mean, there was that clip of him in Game 1 or Game 2 where he was just watching 3 guys catch their shot, and he was just sitting under the basket watching it. So I know out here in Arizona, obviously, I've been talking to a lot of people, and they've been saying, Ayton this, Ayton that. They're not happy with Ayton, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely not playing the way he played in that 21 series against the Bucks. But yeah, this has been a wild series. This Game 5 is huge. If Phoenix can find a way to win it on the road, they can avoid a Game 7 at Denver and clinch it at home. I thought this would be the year for Denver. It still very well can be, obviously. Like, I'm not saying by any means that they're out of this series because it's 2-2 and they got the lead at home in Game 5 right now. But I thought this would be the year for Denver because they're finally all healthy. You finally got Jokic at full health, Jamal Murray at full health. Their supporting cast, especially in that Game 4, was lacking a lot. Only got 11 points off the bench. Got like it was like 53 from Jokic. I was just looking at this.
And they have a lot of guys who are very defensive oriented.
Yeah.
Like you have Bruce Brown, who I believe he's usually in and out of the starting lineup, but he's mostly a starter. And he came from Brooklyn in the offseason, but he's a very defensive oriented player. Aaron Gordon, very defensively oriented player. They lost obviously Monte Morris, Bones Highland at the trade deadline. But yeah, it does feel like Jokic. And that's what's kind of been the story for the Nuggets these past postseason runs. It's like who's going to help out Jokic? Like who's going to step up? You finally have Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. healthy at the same time. It's the supporting cast of Denver needs to step up if they want to be able to make a run.
Yeah, for sure. You're probably going to need a big game from Porter somewhere. Doesn't have to be huge, but like if you can get a night out of him
25 plus
in these next couple
plus.
games where he gets like 20, 25, that'd be huge for them. But yeah, let's move on to the other series that was going on tonight. Another one that's been just going in a million different directions. Celtics and Sixers tonight. We'll say that I wasn't watching it with full intent. I was kind of flipping back and forth between that game and the Cubs game tonight. But the Celtics just looked disinterested tonight. Just didn't look like they cared at all for some reason. It's like this is a pivotal Game 5, especially when you're at home. Because like when you're the Sixers and you're tied 2-2, like you gotta get one of the games on the road. But when you're the Celtics at 2-2, I feel like it's almost bigger for the Celtics than it is for the Sixers because then you're like, well, if you lose this game, now you got to go to Philadelphia in a Game 6 and at the brink of elimination. And they just came out and did not play well at all and ended up getting pounded by the Sixers a little bit.
And as a Jason Tatum fan, I do enjoy watching the Celtics. I like Jaylen Brown. I enjoy their team, their organization as a whole. It's like the Warriors. They're fun to watch. It seems that they never make mistakes. But with Tatum here he is by far and away the best player on the floor. And it's like sometimes he just doesn't want to be that. Like he doesn't perform like that. And I get it. You may have off nights here and there. Everyone has that. But at sometimes it feels like he doesn't even want to be the best player on the floor. And it kind of goes back to the finals last year against Golden State. It's almost like he didn't really show up too much. And it's like in the East, the whole entire Eastern playoffs of last year, he was dominant. And then he was in the finals, and it's like, where's Tatum at? And I feel like this series is kind of in the same way. It's like Jason Tatum is the best player on this floor. Why is he not playing like it?
And like he's still at 36 tonight, but at the same time he was 11 for 27 from the field. So like he got to the free throw line a bunch, which got him there. But like if there's a way to have a very inefficient 36, Jason Tatum found that way tonight. And I feel like you kind of have, and this is no disrespect to Jaylen Brown at all, because he's a great player, but I feel like you got a guy in Jason Tatum who is that guy but doesn't want to be that guy. And then you got a guy in Jaylen Brown who wants to be that guy but isn't quite that guy. And I
that
feel
makes sense. That is 100% true. I've never thought about it that way.
If that makes sense, because like you got Jaylen Brown,
Yeah,
who like
100%.
I feel like he, not to use like a cliche, but I feel like he does like have that dog in him where like he wants to be the guy that like hits these late shots and stuff. But he's just not quite at that level to do that. And then you got a guy in Jason Tatum, who is capable of it, but I feel like he kind of shies away in those moments. Not during the regular season at all. Like obviously he's played great in the regular season and early rounds as well. But I feel like when you get into these kind of like more stressful situations, he kind of backs away from the spotlight a little bit.
Yeah, that is very interesting to hear, because I never thought about it that way. But because Jaylen Brown was the one who actually in his post game conference, he did say something about it, but he was the one in Game 4 who allowed Harden, who he doubled Embiid to leave Harden open for that last shot in Game 4 to put the Sixers up, and the Sixers ended up winning that Game 4, which was a very pivotal game, because if this is 3-1 right now, this whole entire game is entirely different, without a doubt. Because the difference, Game 4s are always huge in any sport, because it's either 3-1 or it's 2-2. Unless, it might be 3-0, then it's 4-0, game over. But it's either 3-1 or 2-2, and there is a huge difference in 3-1 versus 2-2. Because if you're the team that is down 3-1, you look at like, okay, we have to win all these games. If you're the 3-1 team, you're looking at like, all right, we just gotta win one. The mindset of everything is so different. And the Celtics, I feel like, kind of are digging themselves into a hole when they are by far the better team.
Yeah. I feel like you've kind of seen this in past years too. Like the Celtics kind of get to this point. Usually it's a little bit later. Usually it's the conference finals or it's the NBA finals like it was last year. But they get to this point and it's like, it almost looks like they're like inexperienced and like starting kind of making these mistakes and like digging themselves into their own grave a little bit. Which you think by now, this is like dang near the same team and the same core in like that 2018
if not
Eastern
better.
Conference Finals against.
I think they're better.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like the same players, but now it's like 5 years later, and now they're like they've all gotten better. Like obviously you've added some pieces with like Derek White, but if like you look at the main like four guys from this series compared to like 2018 when they were in the conference finals against was it LeBron and the Cavs, I think? Yeah,
that was Tatum's rookie year.
Yeah, so you got Tatum as a rookie. Jaylen Brown, who was like a second-year guy, I think. Yeah, like it was Horford's first year there, I think. Marcus Smart had been there for a couple of years. And now all four of those guys are still on this team, and it's almost like they haven't learned anything yet.
Because that was like the when the Celtics lost last year versus the Warriors, no one was really nagging the Celtics at all.
Yeah.
Because it was like they're still young. It's weird. It's weird to believe, that they've
They're
been in the
still
league
all young.
for 5+ years, and that was like, okay, they just ran into a dynasty team of the Warriors and Steph, Clay, Draymond, who have been here multiple times and have that experience, that finals playoff experience, and it was like, okay, the Celtics learned from this. They had that experience now. I think they were the betting favorite at the beginning of the season to win it all. I could be wrong, but it was them and the Bucks.
Surprised.
But that was kind of the thing. Was like, okay, the Celtics have now gained all this finals, full playoff run experience with Tatum, Brown, Marcus Smart, and then you have Al Horford, who's a veteran. You bring in a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, who is just a off the bench, great point guard who gets starter minutes. You obviously have Derek White, who's there, Grant Williams, another one of those guys who has gained that experience, great role player, and it just feels like you said, what they didn't learn anything. What did they take from that finals matchup versus the Warriors? And it feels like nothing.
Yeah. Well, now they got a big one in Game 6, either Thursday or Friday. I don't know which day it is, but sometime later this week they'll have a big Game 6 in Philly to stay alive and keep the title hopes alive. Hopefully push it to a Game 7 for them. I want to see a Game 7 in as many series as possible. So hoping the Celtics can pull it out in Game 6. And I think that would be a very fun Game 7 in the Garden up in Boston. Let's move on to Warriors and Lakers. I feel like last night was a game where I was just kind of assuming that the Warriors were going to win it and get back to 2-2. And then Lonnie Walker had different plans in the fourth quarter. He had 15 points in the game. All 15 came in the fourth quarter. He kind of gave the Lakers a little spark off the bench, pulled them out. They ended up getting a 3-point win, and now they're up 3-1 going back to Oakland, or back to San Francisco now.
I was in the same boat as you. I was completely expecting this series to be tied 2-2 at the end of last night's game. I did not get to watch any part of the game. I went to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and so I was in the theater I went to theater right before tip off, and I got out right after the game ended. So my phone actually died in the theater, so I had to go get all the way home and charge my phone. I was ready to see the score, whatever. I pulled it up and I see the Warriors lost, and I was like, wow. And I go on Twitter, I see this Lonnie Walker this, Lonnie Walker that. But I don't know. Steph dropped a triple-double, and they still lost. It's crazy.
Yeah. He had an insane passing night last night. He had 14 or 15 assists, something like that. He had a great game. To be honest, it was a late night game. I was dozing off a little bit in the end of the fourth, trying to stay awake as much as possible. So I may have missed some key points in that fourth quarter at the end, but it was a wild game, wild fourth quarter, especially with Lonnie Walker just starting off the quarter on a 6-0 run by himself or something like that. Like we've said, I was fully assuming that the Warriors were going to tie this series up, and now it's 3-1, and I don't doubt that the Warriors are going to win Game 5 at home. I don't think this series is over in 5, but now if you're the Warriors, you got to win 3 in a row. It would be excuse me, it would be very kind of funny if the Warriors found a way to beat LeBron 3-1 after
I would love it.
LeBron beat them 3-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be that guy, but Game 3 was. Did you watch Game 3?
Yeah.
Game 3 was. It. I felt it was just a little off because
that one felt weird for sure.
I think the Lakers won a 30-8 run at the end of the first half, something wild like that, and it was because that was in the last 2 minutes. I think we had technical foul for the Warriors, technical foul, take foul, like clear path foul. You had all these other like challenges that didn't go their way. You had an Anthony Davis charge foul was called against Draymond, a block foul was called against Draymond. They reviewed it, wasn't a charge, and then you have in the second half, I can't remember who did it, but the same thing happened. I think it was Stafford Clay went in, did the same exact thing that AD did. That's called the offensive foul charge. They challenge it, doesn't work. It just like, and I think I don't know if you've seen the free throw disparity stats for the series. It's wild. It's just does not sit right with me, and I feel like you watch it and it's so obvious.
And I mean, part of that is due to like the Warriors being more of a perimeter team and the Lakers not having perimeter shooting at all and going to the rim. So, like, that there was going to be some disparity in the free throw numbers, but not to this extent. Like, it just
does not make sense.
It's like the Warriors are getting like 6 attempts, and the Lakers are going like 25 for 30 from the line. And it's just like I said, with the way the two teams play, I would not be surprised by a difference in free throw stats, but to the extent that it's at right now, that is just wild, and I don't even know. I don't know what to say, but it's been crazy.
It just does not make sense. And the Lakers all season, I think they've had the most amount of fouls called for them, I guess. I think it's fouls called for them since you guessed it. I think it was 2013, 2011 Heat, another LeBron team. I mean, I don't want to put on the tinfoil hat. I'm not a LeBron fan by any means. I'm not trying to sound here like, oh, excuses, but it is something to look at. It feels like it's just out in the open, and you watch it, and it just feels like every single call is going the Lakers' way.
Yeah. It's definitely been a very interesting series from the officiating side of things, but you can always kind of expect that in the NBA at some points, especially.
But not in the NHL Draft Lottery. That's not rigged.
Yeah, no, that one's clean. But it is kind of funny when you have two teams that, like, I feel like if you're not a fan of either of these two teams, you're just like a casual NBA fan, you're always thinking that the calls are going for each of these teams when they're in their own series, and now they're not necessarily the Lakers, but pretty much just like whatever team LeBron's on and the Warriors. I feel like if you're just like an NBA casual, you're like, oh, those guys are getting all the calls. Now they're playing each other. It was like, what's going to happen? And so far, it's LeBron and the Lakers getting some questionable calls, but we'll see how this series progresses. Game 5 tomorrow.
I believe it is tomorrow. Tomorrow the 10th.
I can't keep track of how they decide which one's only a day off and which one's 2 days off.
I think it's because it's such a short travel. Like, there's no like real travel day for this series, so it's like, okay, you guys can get back to or alternate days, alternate games.
Yeah, from LA to San Francisco.
I mean, they probably take a bus there. Well, not knowing LeBron and the Lakers, they fly helicopters for private, whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, this one's been a wild one. Definitely a pivotal Game 5 for the Warriors to keep this series alive. Last series to talk about. I feel like this one is kind of wrapped up based on what one of the players has said already in a press conference. The Heat and the Knicks. Did you see where Julius Randle was?
Real quick, I'm thinking about what I just said. I mean, private planes and just helicopters for the Lakers. I did not mean any joke at all by that. That's on me. I did not. I realize that's what I said. I just meant because the Lakers as an organization and LeBron as a person would be like, let's just fly, whatever, screw it, we're not driving, all this stuff. So hand up on me, that was not any joke whatsoever. Private planes, private helicopters, private buses, private trains, whatever. Hand up on me, but continue.
You slid that one by me. I didn't even think about that.
I
But,
see. I said it, and I was like, I did not mean that. I did not mean anything of that. So I just needed to clear that up.
Yeah, you slid that one right by me. I did not notice, but yeah. Anyways, did you see that Julius Randle said something along the lines of like they just want it more than us about the Heat?
Yeah.
And
if you're a Knicks fan, you gotta be pissed about that.
And it's like it's one thing to say that like at the end of the series where you're like, you know what, they wanted it more than us, but like to say it, and it's like, dude, it's only 3-1. Like, not say it's only 3-1. Like that's very tough to come back from, but like it's been done before. Like you can still come back. Like the series is not over.
No,
I feel like emotionally it is over now for the Knicks. Like if that's the sentiment of arguably like maybe not your best player, but kind of like the franchise player for them. Like I feel like the franchise has kind of been built around Randall these last couple of years, and when your franchise player is saying that they want it more than us, I feel like you might be in some trouble.
And see, I've never bought into the Julius Randle hype on any level, college, NBA, whatever. For the money that they're paying him, I feel like he doesn't show up. And I feel like it's just like, oh, Julius Randle didn't play good tonight. But like I feel like that's any other player in the NBA that you're giving that type of money to, you're like people are gonna lose their minds. And for him to say it regardless after the series is still bad. But during the series when you're only down, I should say, but when you're down 3-1, you say, I guess they just want it more. If you're a Knicks fan, you gotta be pissed about that.
Yeah.
And I know New York sports fans are livid about it. Stephen A. Smith, did you see what he said about it?
No.
He talked about it, I think it was on First Take, and he said, I'm not happy with Randall, and he goes, I'm just ready to trade him. I think he said I'm about ready to say just trade Julius Randle.
Yeah. Another friend of the program who's made a couple appearances, Mikey Terzakis, from about 30 minutes outside of New York City, have had some conversations with him the last couple days talking about this series. And for being a man who's only about 5'5", he gets as fiery as anyone I've ever seen. And he has been pretty fired up about this series in a very negative way. So we do have some New York intel from it. And
boots on the ground. We got sources in the ground.
But I can tell you that New York Knicks fans are not happy, and they should not be happy either with the way that their team's been playing. I mean, pretty much the only bright spot you can look at is Jalen Brunson lately. But other than that, it's just been a dumpster fire. I want the Knicks to win this series for Tibbs. Miss Tibbs. Hope the best success for him, but it's not looking good. Did you see that stat that when his team is down 2-1, Tibbs is like 0-6 now, 0-7 in those game fours?
That hurts because it's 95% my team.
Yeah,
the Bulls.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it goes back to what you said earlier about pivotal game fours. When you're not winning those game fours, you put yourself in a big hole, and that's what the Knicks got themselves in now. We'll see if they can bounce out of it, but not expecting much from them. But yeah, we'll just kind of see how it goes.
And regardless of, I think the Heat win this series, whether it's in 5 games or 6 games. I don't see this game going 7, nor I see the Knicks winning this series. But I feel like, yes, it does suck. I mean, if New York loses in any round, they're going to be pissed. But if you look at the Knicks at the start of the Knicks season, and you say, "Oh, you guys made the second round of the Eastern Conference," I think they'll be like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah.
Like the way the Knicks are built and have the history they have, I think this season is a plus. You have Jalen Brunson coming in for the first year. I think this season, regardless, is a win.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they're not even that young anymore, to be honest. Like, this is kind of like the Celtics again, where it's like you kind of want to make yourself think that they're young and not think of yourself as old either. But at some point, New York's got to get a superstar if they want to be good again. And I feel like the Julius Randle experiment has kind of come to an end, and we'll see if they can figure something out and get another superstar in there. But right now, it's just not working for them, and it's not looking promising for the rest of the series either. But it's any last thoughts on the NBA as a whole?
Just one last thought on the Knicks series. Jimmy Buckets is insane.
Yeah.
Just got to put that out there.
Yeah.
It's pretty much single-handedly being the 1-seed Bucks, who were the betting favorites to win it all. Jimmy Buckets is having himself a playoff. Playoff Jimmy is back. It's a real thing. People forgot about it. He's back. The Heat are back. Heat culture is alive.
That is true. Jimmy Buckets has been insane. But yeah. I guess since we are a college basketball podcast, we should talk about that for a second. Not a whole lot going on right now, but Hunter Dickinson did finally make his decision, and he will be going to Kansas now. Also came out with a quote today that apparently he was making less than 100 or less than six figures in NIL
I
at
was going
Michigan.
to bring this up.
I find that extremely hard to believe, or that he is just like, at the same time, like, you can make your own NIL deals. Like the school doesn't, or like the boosters and stuff don't have to make them all for you. Like, you can go out. That's what this was all intended to be, is that you as an athlete go out and make your own NIL deals. It's turned into basically boosters promising recruits and promising transfers, promising players that are still there, or like to entice them to return, that they're going to get these NIL deals. You can go out to the local car dealership and be like, hey, can I do an NIL deal with you? Like, it doesn't have to be all from the boosters and through the team and stuff. So if he was making less than six figures, do some work yourself, man. But yeah, he's off to Kansas, apparently getting a lucrative NIL bag now that he's escaped the treacheries and poverty of Michigan, supposedly. But yeah, I just do not believe that he was making less than six figures at Michigan.
And poor Hunter Dickinson, he was making less than six figures as a college basketball star when 4 years ago you couldn't do this. So, boo-hoo to him. That sucks, Poor guy, only making
90K.
Yeah, $90K a year. That sucks. But I mean, as a Duke fan, I'm not a huge Kansas guy. I do respect them in a way. I've never been a Hunter Dickinson fan. And when it came out that, like, when he first said he was going to enter the transfer portal, there were a lot of people saying that, oh, Duke would be a good fit for him. I did not want that one bit.
Yeah.
The number one transfer portal in the nation of college basketball, I did not want him. I just felt like he would just be just detrimental to the team. He doesn't fit. His personality as a whole, I don't think it just I did not want that on my team.
Especially with Filipowski back.
Yes, especially with Filipowski back. Shout out Kyle Filipowski. I know he's a huge listener of this show.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just if I was you, I wouldn't want him. Apparently, Illinois talked to him. I can't imagine those talks went very far. I feel like feel like when a player like that enters the portal, no matter where he went to school, no matter if he was in the same conference or something, like you got to at least say something to him, like gauge the interest. But
Yeah.
I don't think there was uh, uh, much reciprocal interest on either side. I don't think he was very interested in us, and I don't think we were very interested in him. But yeah, it's interesting to see him go off to this blue blood with Kansas. I'm not sure who all they're bringing back from this year, if many people at all. I don't think they are. I think most of these guys are gone. Uh, I saw something of like a tweet about Kansas's roster, and most of the guys I did not recognize from last year. So it seems like this might be not like it's never going to be a rebuild for Kansas, but could be an interesting start to the year, bringing in a lot of new pieces, maybe some pieces off the bench from last year onto this upcoming year's team. So Kansas will be an interesting story this year. Uh, Not to get too far deep into college basketball talk in May, but I feel like I do feel like Dickinson does play a great role at Kansas as kind of being the villain now. Like he always has been the villain at Michigan, and now he's going to a blue blood, and I feel like that just kind of enhances it. So that will be kind of an interesting storyline seeing him at Kansas.
As much as I would not want him at Duke, he would be a great classic Duke villain.
He would have been a perfect Duke villain.
And I would have hated it because I don't like him to begin with. And I just did not want him coming anywhere near Duke. But another thing, college basketball world, Boo Buie coming back.
Yeah, we should mention that.
Coming out of the draft, I believe. I think, if I read that right.
Yeah,
Or
he entered the
Mhm.
draft. I mean, let's be real, he's never going to get drafted, but there was probably a real case that he could just go overseas and be done with school. So good for him. Good for Northwestern to bring him back. If they bring back Audige, they got that Langborn kid from Princeton. They got another transfer who I'm blanking on right now. And then they had some good young guys too. But like you're gonna bring back pretty much all of last year's team. So Northwestern could be an interesting team next year, especially if they're going to be anyways. I think they can be pretty good even if Audige doesn't come back, but I'm guessing he probably will come back, and that could be an interesting team to watch next year. That bring him, they had to bring back Audige with Bowie with his scoring ability on a mainly defensive team. Now you got a guy in Langborn from Princeton who can help them space the floor too, help Boo and Audige be able to get to the rim more if Audige does come back, as well as open up shots for them. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting team next year. I feel like I said, not trying to get too deep into the college basketball talk right now, being so far away, but I feel like next year could be another year full of a lot of parity and could be a very fun college basketball season.
One more thing while we're talking about college basketball, I feel like as a college basketball podcast, we should bring this up. Bronny James.
How can we forget this?
Going to the Trojans. Kind of out of the blue. In a way, I thought this would kind of be a bigger deal. Like we'd hear something about like LeBron, going to Miami. Like there'd be this big press conference. It'd be on ESPN, all this kind of thing. It'd be leading up, but it wasn't. It just kind of out of the blue.
Yeah, with all these recruitments, it's always interesting to see like the announcement for the announcement, like announcing that like, hey, this time, this day, I'm gonna announce where I'm going. Didn't see that with Bronny. Just kind of put something on Instagram. Did you see that video of him with like the 2K My Player or something, like changing jerseys or something? I don't know if that was him that made it or if someone else made it of him. No. But that was like a quirky little video that was very, very cheesy, but very LeBron-esque. So fitting that Bronny would do it. But yeah, Bronny going to USC, kind of interesting with Boogie Ellis deciding that he's coming back, and then them bringing in one, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but them bringing in one of the top freshman guards in the country. Going to be interesting to see how Bronny fits into that. But yeah, he's going to USC, staying away from the Big Ten for a year at least by not going to Ohio State. We'll see if he stays for a second year and does eventually get a year in the Big Ten. I doubt that he'll stay 2 years, no matter where his draft stock's at. But
Highly doubt it.
But even if he's coming off the bench, but we'll see. But yeah, any other college basketball news you got that I'm missing?
No, off the top of my head, no.
All right. Well, I think that's about all we got today. Like I said, Connor Bedard blog will be out soon. We're gonna try and not get back because we haven't even really started it, but try to get this blog rolling a little bit more. Just was whatever comes up. We'll try to talk about it as much as possible. But yeah. Any final words from you, Adam?
No, but now that you're talking about the blog, I'm gonna have to brainstorm some topics because I want to get into the blog industry there.
Yeah. We'll get the blog out. We'll post on Twitter whenever those blogs come out, and make sure that you guys are the first to know about it. But yeah, I think that's all we got for this week. We'll probably be back next week, early in the week. Hopefully, we can get Roach to join us. I know I think this is his last week of school, so hopefully, now that we're kind of getting back into summer, no more homework and shit like that. Kind of be able to do this a little bit more often, more frequently. Hopefully get up to twice a week. But we'll just kind of see how it goes. It is also summer, and I don't know how much we want to be spending inside talking when we can be outside. But at the same time, we do love talking about this kind of stuff. So we'll just kind of play it by ear, see how many we can get. How many of these we can get out. I will say update. Denver is up 77-58 on Phoenix now.
Wow.
So came out hot in this third quarter. But yeah, so looking like Denver's going to take a 3-2 lead. Head to Phoenix for Game 6. But yeah, I think that's about all we got. Appreciate you guys listening, and we'll catch you back next week.